Range and runtime, those are two big concerns with electric boats, but they shouldn't be. I think the real challenges are battery weight and battery cost, which I will also cover briefly in this video. But the argument about range and runtime, that argument should sleep with the fishes. Electric boats are a lot like electric cars. Whether or not you've ever operated or owned an EV, we have reached the point where most of us are a little more familiar with the concept of an EV. You have to charge them, and charging can sometimes be a challenge. Electric boats are very, very similar. When we're boating, whether we're in a gasoline-powered boat or an electric boat, we are always much less accessible to fuel than we are when we're on land in a gasoline car. We never have to think about fueling because there are gas stations everywhere. With an EV, we know that charging stations are fewer and farther between. We also know that charging takes a lot longer than refueling with gas. When we're out on the water, if you're in a gasoline boat, if you bring enough fuel along for your trip, you're fine. In an electric boat, it's the exact same way. You bring enough battery along for your trip. Because how often have you run out of fuel out there in the water? Please let me know in the comments. I personally never ran out of gas on the water when I was running gasoline boats. And that was because I always prepared ahead of time. My first boat actually had 2 6-gallon fuel tanks and had an old Evinrude 90 horsepower 2-stroke engine. I would always connect to the tank that was less full at first. I would connect to that one, leave the fuller tank for my return trip. That's the same thing we do with an EV. We charge up our batteries. We get to know the range and runtime of the battery pack that we have, and we take appropriate trips. And if that's not enough voltage for what we need, we buy a bigger battery. Or we do the trick that I'm going to show you later in this video. In the comments of my videos about electric boats, a lot of people always talk about the fact that if you do run out of battery juice out on the water, nobody can easily bring you another battery. And that is 100% true, because even if they had a battery on their boat, the chances are it's not going to be the right voltage, the right connection. And some of these batteries weigh 100 pounds, so, you know, it's some crazy brick. The odds are basically infinitesimal that somebody else would have a battery that could help you get back. But for those of you who've ever run out of fuel on the water, how many times did somebody come to the rescue, like a stranger, with fuel? The reality is, if I do run out of electricity on the water, run out of battery juice, yeah, I'm getting towed back. It's like a breakdown. But gasoline boats break down and have to be towed back too. So I don't see that as being really a huge difference. Whether you're running a gasoline, diesel, or electric boat, the rule of thirds applies. And the rule of thirds is always that you use 1/3 of your fuel or battery to get to your farthest destination. That leaves you 2/3 of your fuel to get back home. The 2/3 is because if you run into any other kind of situations where you have to take a detour, or you're going against current or winds or both, or you're having to run at a higher rate of speed, increasing your burn rate, leaving 2/3 of your battery to get back home is the boating rule of thirds. The same applies for battery. And of course, a lot of these batteries are Bluetooth. So I can easily just look at my phone and see what my battery is at. And when I see that my battery is below 50%, then I need to get back. And hopefully it's before it's below 50% if it was at 100% charge when I left. Let me show you a recent outing that we had where when we left the house, we were not fully charged. I looked at where we were, state of charge, whenever I left, realized I wanted it at 100%, and quickly did the math and knew what 50% of that number was. And then I checked the battery periodically to make sure we had enough to get back home. And as you can see, we were out for a few hours, running at various rates of speed, and I still had plenty of battery juice when I got back, because I followed the rule of thirds. I bought an EV truck last summer, and I will admit, even though I have a few years experience with electric boating, I did have range anxiety. It's real. And it's something that you get over. If you talk to most people who are running anything electric, whether it's an EV or electric yard equipment or an electric boat like this one, they'll have told you that they've gotten past range anxiety, or that they're just aware of what their range and their battery consumption is. I don't worry about range. I just check my battery, my fuel level before a trip, and I just keep an eye on it, just like I do with anything else. Remember earlier in this video when I said I would show you one simple thing that would massively increase your range and runtime in an electric boat? Here it is. Back off the throttle and watch your gauges to find the sweet spot, because there is a sweet spot. So this is the display for my ePropulsion Navy 6. The very first thing is the 100%. That's the battery. Now, this display is calibrated for the ePropulsion battery, which is much smaller than the battery I am using. So it stays at 100% for a very long time. Even when my battery's down to 75%, it still shows 100% because it isn't able to calculate 210 amp hours. The second one is the RPMs of the motor. Electric outboard motors actually spin at pretty slow RPMs, and you'll see whenever I rev it up that the RPMs don't go up very high at all. This 0013, I recorded this when I had been out for only 13 minutes on this trip. The 959 is what this is calculating I have left of runtime with the battery at 100%. This is my miles per hour. Over here is watts. The ePropulsion Navy 6 is a 6,000 watt motor, or a 6 kilowatt electric outboard motor. I have gone 1 miles so far, and according to the calculations, I have 62.1 miles remaining. All of that information is assumptions, but let's see what happens to that data once I start throttling up. As you can see, the RPMs and the watts are climbing, and the mile per hour is catching up with it. As we give it more throttle, and I'm doing it very slowly here, you'll see that we're going faster, RPMs are going up. You'll see also that the range and runtime are also going down accordingly. Now we're almost up to 6,000 RPMs, and our full speed that we can achieve with the Navy 6 on this boat, which is 7.3 miles per hour. So I did a freeze frame here, maximum watts, 7.3 miles per hour, which gives us now 55 minutes of runtime and 6.6 more miles of range. Once again, these are estimates based on what it thinks the battery capacity is. So now we're going to throttle back. We're coming off of full throttle. We're going to throttle back a ways. I'd like to get it to the point where we're 1 mile per hour slower. So I'm shooting for 6.3 miles per hour. There we go. 6.3 miles per hour, right there. Let's do a freeze frame again. At 6.3 miles per hour, we're only 1 mile per hour slower, but we are only using 3,285 watts, so a little more than half the watts of what we're running at full throttle. But look at our runtime. it was 55 minutes, and now it's 1 hour, 41 minutes. So backing off 1 mile per hour is giving us 4 more miles of range and 45 more minutes of runtime. Obviously, backing off the throttle to increase your range and runtime can get you home if you've been paying attention to your battery. And I know the same is true with a gasoline engine. And think about that gas outboard motor. I have this 5 horsepower Honda. It doesn't show me where the sweet spot is. It doesn't tell me what my burn rate is. It doesn't have this great gauge that this electric outboard has to be able to show me that now I am being much more efficient than I was before. The slowing down technique also works with an EV car, but of course you would not want to run your EV car at 35 miles an hour on an interstate highway. That would not be safe. That would not be recommended. But for me, if I need to get home and I'm going to slow down to 5 miles an hour to have enough battery to get home, that's okay on the water. Boats can pass you from any direction, and you're not usually causing any kind of trouble for anybody by going 4 or 5 miles an hour. They'll just run around you. It's not the end of the world. Ooh, here comes a bunch of wakes. One of the challenges with some of these small electric outboards, like the one I'm running here, is this one only has a top speed in this boat of about 7.3 miles per hour. Going 5 or 6 miles an hour is not acceptable for some people, and I 100% get that. And this motor then isn't good for you, for what you want to do, because if you need to get places faster than that, or if you want to go faster than that, or pull a skier, or cover great distances during a day, yes, this electric outboard isn't for you. Yes, the current technology probably isn't for you, because you could get a system that is fast and capable of getting you far, but it's going to be ridiculously expensive right now. Another funny story about range and range anxiety. When I was testing the first electric outboard motors that I was testing, I would bring them out and compare them to a gasoline outboard motor. So I would leave my marina with the electric outboard motor, shooting some footage, running it for a little bit, testing it out. And then I would get out here into the river somewhere and check the speed of that electric outboard motor, write down some notes, shoot some footage about it, top speed, volume, things like that, get some good footage. Then I would go to put on the gas motor to compare it. And my gas motors often were the ones that failed me out on the water. My electrics never did. And I know that's just my personal experience. I just think that's funny, because one of the things people worry so much about with electrics is it failing on them, and leaving them stranded. And if I didn't have my electrics, my gas engines would have been what have left me stranded in the past. And I just think that's ironic, because the fear people have with electrics is the reality I've had with gas engines. Which brings me to the real challenges with electric boating, and that is battery weight and battery costs. See, I said I was going to get to that. The reality is that with a gasoline engine on a boat, bringing along emergency fuel is very easy to do. A second 6-gallon fuel tank weighs about 36 pounds when it is filled. For viewers in other countries, that's a 23-liter fuel tank that weighs about 16 kilograms when filled. The cost of buying that tank and filling it with fuel is relatively small. Filling up that tank is enough to double the range of a small outboard motor. Surprisingly, a second 32 amp hour 48 volt battery weighs about the same as that fuel does, but it costs about $800 more. That is suitable to double the range of an e-Propulsion Spirit 1.0 Plus. That's why I mentioned it. But that $800 cost is a much bigger upfront cost than just buying a simple plastic fuel tank and filling it with gasoline. But obviously, over time, if you went out a lot, running that battery, if it held up, would definitely be cheaper than constantly buying fuel, especially at today's prices. Now, in a boat like this one, adding a second battery would add thousands of dollars of cost and 100 more pounds of weight in the boat. If we could get the cost and weight of batteries down to somewhere like half of what they are now, that would be a huge game changer. But I know, obviously, for some people, that still wouldn't change their mind. They still wouldn't ever want to go with an electric boat. And I get it. Hey, that's okay. I just know I really like it. Hey, I'm Wade the Boat Guy. You stay safe out there on the water. I'll see you in the next video. And don't forget, range and run time, that idea should sleep with the fishes.